Welcome to the channel and welcome to Adventure Systems. This is gonna be my very first post on YouTube. I'm excited, I'm pumped. I got a lot of stuff I wanna go through. I've got a lot of plans for this channel and this is just gonna be the first of many. So the first thing we're gonna talk about on this channel is something that I really like and I've been running on my truck recently. It's a local company here in Utah. It's Hutch rooftop tents. So we're gonna be talking about how to install this rooftop tent onto your truck. So Hutch tents are really easy to install. I had one unexpected issue. I had to get extra long bolts from Home Depot. It was a really easy fix, but it was something I had to kind of figure out along the way. So other than that, like it's a great tent and it should be a really easy install. I think everyone should have no problems putting it on their truck or whatever vehicle they're gonna put it on. Now, I am installing this tent on the Yakima Overhaul HD rack system. So this rack is really a great rack. One of the issues with it, and we've already talked about it a little bit, is it does have really thick, burly bars. It helps if you're carrying a heavy load, but I mean, I had to get longer screws to fit onto that tent so it could install here. But you know, we worked through it and we'll show the whole experience I went through in this video. All right, as you can see here, the tent is already put together. I already have the cover on, but if I just got it out of the box, which is right there, with future upgrades to come, we'll talk about those later. But if it was just coming out of the box, it'd look a little bit different. All of the parts that you're gonna use to install and put together the tent is gonna be kept inside of the tent. So you're just gonna have to open it up and get everything out. All right, first thing you need to do is there's two different track systems right here. And you have to take these and you have to attach them to the bottom of the tent. And you have to do that through the inside of the tent under the mattress, the foam pad. There's holes in which are gonna connect into each of the rails through holes right here. And then these rails are gonna then attach to your rack system for your vehicle. Once you've emptied everything out of your tent, and it's kind of hard to see, it's pretty dark, but once you've gotten everything out of the inside, you go underneath the foam pad. There's like another little liner here that is attached by Velcro. Just pull that up. You're gonna see some holes. There, there's gonna be one back there, and there's gonna be one right there, and there's gonna be another one back there. So with every Hutch tent, you're gonna receive a bag like this one that was in the inside of it, and it's gonna have all of the hardware needed to assemble your tent. So with these 4 screws, you're gonna take these and put them into the 4 holes that I showed you. Washer up, the nut facing downwards, and they're gonna attach into those 2 rails that I showed previously. Take the 4 screws and put them into these holes with the washer. Now we are gonna attach those 4 screws into the 2 beams we talked about earlier. First thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna lift up the tent. You're gonna see the screws popping out at the bottom. And then we're gonna take those beams and install them right here. So this is a good representation of how the rooftop tent will fit onto my rack system. So the rooftop tent is gonna attach obviously to here on those holes that I've mentioned previously. And from here, the rooftop tent is gonna open to the side of my vehicle. You want those rails going perpendicular to the rack system that you're using so that they can clamp onto the bars of your rack. Little slot for each of the nuts, you just put them in there. And you can put your finger in there and slide them down to where the opening is in the rail. So it helps to get these finger tight by reaching your hand in, finding the screw, twisting it once you've gotten the nut lined up with the screw. Now, for the bottom ones, you're probably gonna need to get help for somebody to hold the railing on the bottom with the nuts in it, while another person is holding the screws on the inside and twisting them in. Opposite to the base, where you attach the two rails that are gonna attach to the rack, there's gonna be these 4 holes marked by these black dots, where you're gonna be attaching these Next, you're just gonna need to install these nuts to the bottom of the screws that you just pushed into these holes. So you just need to open up the tent on this side and you can just reach your hand in here and you can get to those screws right here and put those nuts on. Hutch provides 2 wrenches for you to use to tighten these down. You're gonna need to use one on top and another one on the bottom to cinch these bolts down. Next, you're gonna take the ladder out of the bag and you're going to attach it to the 2 ladder brackets that you just installed. Once the ladder is initially installed onto the bolts, you're gonna take the nut and the rubber washer and you're gonna install those next. First by placing the rubber washer first, and then you're gonna be putting the nut on, and do this for both sides. Just keep in mind when you're installing these rubber grommets can kind of get pushed over the nut if you tighten them too much. So kind of find that happy medium between too much wiggle room and too tight where the rubber washer starts to come over the nut. Now that we've attached the 2 rails on the bottom and the ladder to the top, we just need to open up the tent and make sure everything inside is Velcroed back down. One of the cool features on this mattress is to help with the mattress not flying around when you're opening and closing it, is there's Velcro on the bottom right here. Just make sure you connect it to the Velcro at the base of the tent. It helps to use these bungee cords that they provided. There's 4 of them, and you can attach them going across the tent. There's one here, there's a higher one there, and then it just mirrors on the other side with 2 more. This is gonna help keep the material in as you're folding up the tent so it doesn't stick out and bunch up. The tent itself is fully installed. Now we just need to fold it all up and get it ready to put onto the rack, and then we're gonna put it onto the truck. All right, so we have just arrived at Home Depot. This is an unexpected trip. Unfortunately, the bolts that were provided for the tent to attach to my rack were too small, so I need to get a little bit longer ones. Now, this is no fault of Hutch Tents. The Yakima Overhaul HD bars are really thick, so they're gonna just take extra long bolts. I think most rack systems, the bolts that are provided should work with them just fine. Bolts, find your friend. Where are they? Nope. Nope. Maybe? That's it. There you go. All right, mission accomplished. Got the screws. Now we just need to go home and attach the tent to the rack. All right, just as a demonstration, we placed the rooftop tent onto the rack, and you can kind of see how the rack works in conjunction with the bars. So from here, we're going to slide in the housing that holds the bolt on both sides of the rack. And then from there, we're going to put on a bracket that's going to clamp down onto the Yakima rack and keep the rooftop tent in place. Again, attaching the rooftop tent to the rack now is just for demonstration purposes only. I'm gonna attach the rooftop tent to the rack once I've put the rack back onto the truck. That way it's a lot easier to handle and maneuver putting the rack in place on the truck. But for now, you can kind of see how this attaches to the rack and how it secures down with this bracket. and pinches onto the rack and holds the tent into place. You're gonna do this on all 4 sides. All right, so the Hutch tent is now installed onto the rack, and we have put the cover on with these straps. There's 2 on each side, and you cinch them down, run them through the loops, and you should be good to go.